everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in this video here today, I'm going to be attempting to do a different kind of recipe than what I normally do. It is going to be another cooking video, obviously, but I've never actually tried this recipe before. So that is what I'm going to be doing today. I don't really know what you call it except for like smothered pork chops. So it's basically just pork chops, mushroom soup, and cheese. So I don't know how well it's going to be because like I said, I've never made this before. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. But before we do, go down and hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell to be notified when I upload, and let's go ahead and get started with everything you will need. Okay, everyone, so as you guys can see, this right here is what you will need. Okay, so obviously you're going to need your chops. Yes, my chops is leaking blood. I already know that. That's because I just now got them out of the fridge. And you also need mozzarella cheese. I'm using a cup of flour, and I'm going to be using 2 cans of cream and mushroom soup. This is the Caskey's cream and mushroom soup, but I won't be putting these on until after the chops are done. And then you will need a bunch of seasonings. Now with me and my seasonings craze, I add a lot. I really don't measure. I just like dump how much ever I want in there. And then you also need some square cheese because I ain't got much of the mozzarella cheese. So you don't have to do the square cheese. That's just what I'm doing. But it depends if I got enough mozzarella. So that is everything you will need. So I will see you guys back in a second. Okay, so before we actually get started with everything, you are going to start preheating your oven. Now, I bake my pork chops when I flour them. It's a whole lot easier. They're a lot tender. So, just let your oven preheat on 350. And then, now let's go into making this. Okay, now since we got all this laid out, so you are going to take your cup of flour here, and you're going to put it in your bowl. Now, you really don't need a cup of flour, but this is what I use because I'm not wasting and I'm not using more than what I don't need. So, then when I get that done, I just start eyeballing a bunch of seasonings. So, this is the Tony's seasoning right here, as you guys can see. So, I just take it and I just start sprinkling how much ever. Like I said, I really don't eyeball this. I just go with the flow and start pouring seasonings in there just to my liking that I think would be the best. So you really ain't got to measure with this. You just got to know how much to put in there and know what is your limit when it comes to this. And then I just took the garlic powder, and then I took meat tenderizer seasoning. Now I'm using the original seasoning. And then my original seasoning is like clumped together today. I don't know why, but we're just going to roll with it. It's just going to work. And now I'm taking garlic and herb. Doing the same thing for that. See, I use a lot of spices for everything I make. Now you want to take your spoon and just stir your seasonings into your flour. You don't have to do this part. This is just what I do because it makes them more tender for me. So, now that I got all that done, as you guys can see, little specks of seasoning in there. Now, okay, so before you even start on with the pork chops, you will want to wash your hands. Well, I've already did that. So I ain't gonna worry about that. So now you want to take some nonstick spray and spray your pan. So let's go ahead and do that. And the spray I'm using is the Pam Original, as you guys can see here after I throw it at you. And you just want to, just enough that your pan is covered. Okay. Now, this is the fun part. Okay, I'm going to put my pork chops in the sink, like in the bag. That's the way if any blood drips, it won't be getting everywhere. So, I open them up. You guys can see. Okay, so you just want to take your pork chops, lay it flat in there, like this. Okay, make sure both sides is covered. Make sure every little inch of this pork chop is covered. Then, place it in your pan. You can cut these up. You can do whatever. I'm not in the mood to cut them up today because, you know, I really don't feel like it's really necessary today. Because I'm not in the mood to stand back here and just cut and cut and cut. So we're having big chops today. So I just want to do that until, like I said, each and every one of them is covered. Now, I normally do not always flour my pork chops, especially when I actually fry them. But when I bake them, like I said, I think it's a lot better because when you bake them, they get more tougher than what it is if you fry them with no flour. So I've been flouring them each time I bake them. So just want to keep doing like that, and you don't have to overlap them if you don't want to. But there's only like 5 pieces in here, so I'm only doing that like this because once they get done, then I'm going to cut them up. But right now, and this is the reason why I said you only want a cup of flour. That's why you're not wasting a whole lot of flour, you know. You could save this that you're using here if you wanted to make some more that night. Or you can just do it like this, because this is what I'm doing. Okay. So now, after we got our pork chops in here, now what I'm going to do is obviously the blood that's in the bag, I'm going to pour it out and then rinse out my sink and wash my hands. So let's go ahead and do that. So as you guys can hear, okay. Okay, so after you get that done, okay, my hands are washed, my sink is rinsed out. Okay, so once you get your hands washed and everything clean, now you want to take some vegetable oil or whatever and just pour some over these until they are nice and happy. So now once you get them in the oven, now with the pork chops that has the bones in it, I cook for a little bit longer when I bake them. But if they didn't have the bones in it, I would cook them for less than an hour. Now, with the ones with the bone in it, I'm going to cook for an hour and a half. Because that's what will give them time to bake and do all that. Which, honestly, I poured a little bit more grease than what I normally do. But that is just fine. It'll make kind of like a gravy. But, like I said, you want to put them in your oven for at least an hour, hour and a half. And then I'll see you guys back when I get ready to put the mushroom soup and cheese on it. Okay, so once your pork chops is done, you want to transfer them to a bowl and drain the grease. So that's what I'm doing here. So like I said, an hour and a half. These only took an hour because there's only like 5 pieces in here. So there's only 5 in here. So it didn't take that long. So yeah, I will be right back. Okay, so once you drained your grease, you want to put your pork chops back in your pan here. As you guys can see. So you're just going to lay them back in your pan. Then, to save up all my dishes, I'm going to wash this bowl out. And I'm going to reuse this bowl. So, I'm going to do that off camera. Okay, so once you get your pork chops back in your pan, and like I said, I just washed out the bowl. Then you're going to take your cream and mushroom soup here, which you guys can barely see what I'm doing. But, so, I'm going to take my bowl here. Okay. Now, we'll take the cream and mushroom, plop it down in there. Both cans. Okay, once you have both cans in there, take your fork, mash it up, and then you want to take this and fill it up with just a little bit of water. And you're going to pour that in there to make it kind of like a gravy. So, and then you're just going to stir it around like this. But you can do the other can that way if you want to, but it's going to be a little too watery. So I'm just going to keep doing this for a little bit. I mean, you can if you want. It don't really matter. But since this is like too thick, I'm going to do half that can. About that much. And pour that in there. So it ain't too liquidy. And just keep doing this. Okay. And then, once you get the consistency that you want to pour it on your chops. So, and that, make sure they are nice and evenly coated. Then I'm going to grab the spatula so I can get the rest of this out. Okay. And then I'm going to do like this. Okay, once you get it like that, take your mozzarella cheese or whatever kind of cheese you are using and just sprinkle. You don't want it to be really, really, really cheesy. That's that the cheese overpowers the pork chops and the mushroom soup. You just want it to be enough to give it just a little bit more flavor, if that makes sense. So just take it and you sprinkle about that much, as you guys can see. Then, like I said, this is my first attempt to this, and you just want to place your cheese on top of that. You don't have to use every single piece of cheese, just enough to cover your top. Now, like I said, I don't know how well this is going to be, but let's just hope this turns out. Because like I said, this is my first time making it, so I'm only going to be using 6 pieces. Okay, there you go. And then once you get your cheese on there, you want to place it back in your oven until your cheese is nice and melted. So I'm going to probably say 10 minutes, just enough to give the mozzarella cheese time to melt, that cheese time to melt, and the mushroom soup time to heat up. So about 10-15 minutes, I'll be back in here to check on it. So that is what it should look like when your pork chops and stuff is done. Now, like I said, I don't know how well this turns out or how it's going to taste, but that is how you make smothered pork chops.